Maria was not a woman who sought attention or praise. She lived a quiet life in a small neighborhood, where everyone knew each other by sight but few shared their hearts. She worked at a local grocery store, her hands rough from long hours of stacking shelves and her feet tired from standing all day, yet her smile was always warm and inviting. People often said Maria had a special way of making anyone feel welcome, as if her presence alone could lighten their burdens. But Maria's kindness was not something she broadcasted, it came naturally, like breathing. One late afternoon, after finishing her shift, Maria decided to take a walk around her block. The sun was dipping low, painting the sky in shades of pink and orange. She loved this time of day when the air was cool and the streets were calm. As she walked, she noticed a small figure huddled near a run-down house at the corner. It was unusual to see anyone outside at that hour, especially a child. Maria slowed her pace, her heart pulling her toward the figure. The child was sitting on the ground, hugging his knees tightly to his chest. His clothes were torn and dirty, his shoes worn and covered in mud. Maria could see bruises on his arms and scratches on his face. The boy's eyes were wide, filled with fear, and he flinched slightly when Maria stepped closer. "Hey there," Maria said softly, keeping her voice calm and gentle. "Are you okay?" The boy didn't respond. He hugged himself tighter, rocking slightly as if trying to make himself invisible. Maria felt a pang of sadness in her chest. She had seen hardship before, but there was something about this child that touched her deeply. She knelt down a few feet away from him, careful not to scare him. Life in Maria's new home became a blend of comfort, purpose, and joy. The house was more than a structure, it was a symbol of the bond between her and James, a bond that had grown from trust, care, and selfless acts. Maria spent her mornings tending to the garden, her hands brushing over the soft leaves and vibrant flowers. It was a quiet joy, but also a reflection of the life she had nurtured in James and the countless children she had helped in the neighborhood. James continued his work with dedication. His days were full of mentoring young children, organizing community programs, and advocating for the welfare of families. He often invited Maria to join him, knowing that her presence brought a sense of calm and reassurance to those he helped. People in the community began to notice the bond they shared: the woman who had quietly changed a child's life and the man who had become a force for good because of her influence. One afternoon, James brought Maria to a gathering at the community center. It was a celebration of local heroes, people who had gone above and beyond to help others. Maria felt uncomfortable at first. She had never sought recognition, never wanted to be in the spotlight. But James insisted, and slowly, she began to understand the reason behind it. "Maria," James whispered as they walked in, "this is not about attention. This is about showing others that kindness matters. Your story can inspire people, just like it inspired me." As they entered, a few familiar faces greeted them warmly, and children whom Maria had once comforted ran up to hug her. She felt a warmth she had never expected, seeing the tangible impact of her actions reflected in the lives of so many. James stood beside her, his presence steady and reassuring. He had planned this moment not for applause, but for the quiet recognition that the choices one person makes can influence many lives. During the program, James took the stage. He spoke about the importance of compassion, patience, and courage. And then, looking directly at Maria, he told their story. He shared how a young boy, lost and afraid, had been saved by the selfless act of a woman who chose to care when no one else would. He spoke of her kindness, her patience, and her unwavering support, and how those acts had shaped the man he had become. Maria felt a wave of emotions. Tears blurred her vision as she listened to James' words. She had never imagined that her small actions could inspire others, let alone create such a profound impact. James concluded by saying, "Maria, you gave me hope when I had none. You taught me what it means to care, to be brave, and to live with purpose. And today, I stand here to honor you not just for what you did for me, but for the ripple effect of your kindness that touches countless lives every day." The audience applauded, some moved to tears. Maria tried to speak, but her words faltered. James smiled gently, understanding her humility. He guided her hand to his, and together they acknowledged the moment quietly, allowing the recognition to sink in without overwhelming her. After the program, Maria and James walked through the park. The sun was setting, painting the sky with hues of orange and pink. Maria felt a profound sense of peace, realizing that her life, once filled with quiet struggles and unseen sacrifices, had created something beautiful. She had given hope, and now, hope had returned to her life in ways she had never imagined. "James," she said softly, "I never expected anything in return. I only did what I felt was right. And yet, you've given me so much. Not just this house, not just recognition, but a feeling that my life has meaning." James looked at her with warmth and gratitude. "Maria, your actions gave me life, courage, and the belief that I could do anything. Everything I've done since then, every choice I've made to help others, has been inspired by you. This is my way of saying thank you, and of showing you that your kindness matters more than you could ever imagine." Maria smiled, feeling a deep connection that went beyond words. She realized that true gratitude was not measured by gifts or material things, but by the impact one life could have on another. And James had carried that lesson with him, transforming it into a life dedicated to compassion, justice, and love. As the seasons changed, their lives continued to flourish. Maria enjoyed the comfort of her home, the friendships of neighbors, and the quiet satisfaction of seeing the positive changes in the community. James continued to grow in his work, always carrying Maria's lessons in his heart. Together, they became a symbol of hope, a reminder that even small acts of kindness could change the trajectory of a life and inspire countless others. One winter evening, as snow fell softly outside, James and Maria sat by the fireplace, reflecting on their journey. The warmth of the fire mirrored the warmth in their hearts. Maria looked at James, who had grown from a frightened boy into a determined, compassionate man. "I never imagined that day would lead us here," she said softly. James nodded. "Neither did I. But every step, every choice, every act of kindness led us to this moment. You saved me, Maria. And now, we've both grown, learned, and helped others along the way." Maria felt a sense of fulfillment she had never known. Her life had not been easy, and her acts of kindness had often gone unnoticed. But seeing the man James had become, witnessing the lives touched by their shared journey, she understood that true impact is often quiet, invisible, and deeply meaningful. In the years that followed, Maria and James continued their work. They established programs for children in need, offered mentorship to families, and created a network of support for those struggling in silence. Their story became known in the community, inspiring others to act with courage and compassion. And through it all, Maria and James shared a bond that was unbreakable, a connection forged through love, gratitude, and the power of human kindness. Maria often reflected on the journey that had brought them here. She remembered the fear she had seen in the young boy's eyes, the sleepless nights, and the small moments of hope that had guided her decisions. And she realized that those moments, though seemingly insignificant at the time, had changed everything. Her simple choice to act with kindness had created a life full of meaning, love, and joy, not just for James, but for herself and the countless others touched by their shared efforts. James, too, often reflected on the journey. He thought about the despair he had felt as a child, the moments when hope seemed impossible, and the quiet strength he had drawn from Maria's guidance. And he knew that every act of compassion, every effort to help others, was a tribute to the woman who had saved him. He carried her lessons forward, ensuring that the legacy of her kindness would continue to ripple through the lives of many for years to come. Together, they had created more than a home, a community, or a program. They had created a story of hope, courage, and the enduring power of human kindness. Their lives, intertwined by fate and choice, became a living testament to the idea that even one person's actions could change the world. And in that knowledge, both Maria and James found a profound sense of peace, fulfillment, and happiness. As they sat by the fire one evening, watching the flames dance and listening to the quiet of the winter night, Maria turned to James. "Thank you," she said softly. James smiled, squeezing her hand gently. "No, Maria. Thank you. For everything. You showed me the way, and now we continue that journey together, helping others and making the world a little brighter every day." And in that moment, surrounded by warmth, love, and the gentle reminder that kindness matters, Maria and James understood that their story was far greater than themselves. It was a story of hope, resilience, and the extraordinary impact one person can have on another. And it was a story that would continue to inspire, long after the snow melted and the seasons changed. Their lives, built on trust, courage, and gratitude, were now a beacon of hope for all who heard their story, a reminder that even in the darkest moments, a single act of kindness can ignite a light that never fades. "It's okay," she said again. "I'm not going to hurt you." After James was taken to a safer environment, Maria felt a mix of relief and worry. Relief, because he was finally safe from the daily fear and abuse he had endured for years. Worry, because she knew that the road ahead for him would not be easy. Healing from trauma takes time, and even in a safe place, memories of pain can linger. Still, Maria never doubted that helping him was the right choice. She believed deeply in the power of kindness and the strength that love could provide. Years passed, and James grew into a young man full of potential and hope. The boy who once hid in fear now walked with confidence, a quiet strength in his posture, and a sense of purpose in his eyes. Maria continued to support him in every way she could, though now her guidance shifted from daily care to encouragement and advice for the challenges of young adulthood. James had matured, but the lessons Maria had taught him, the value of patience, kindness, and courage, remained the core of who he was. The following months brought a quiet transformation to both James and Maria's lives. James had returned from college for a summer break, but this time, he carried not just stories of learning and experiences, but also plans he had been quietly working on for years. His mind was focused, his heart set on a single purpose: to show Maria the gratitude he had carried silently since childhood. He wanted her to know that her selfless act of saving him had not only changed his life but had created ripples that could never be measured. One morning, James invited Maria for a walk in the nearby park. The sun was warm, the birds chirping, and the trees swayed gently with the breeze. Maria felt a sense of calm, appreciating the ordinary beauty of the world, but unaware of the deeper meaning behind this walk. James had planned this moment carefully, wanting it to be simple yet profoundly meaningful. As they strolled along the winding paths, James spoke about his college experiences, the work he had done at the community center, and the children he had helped. Maria listened attentively, her heart swelling with pride. She had always hoped that he would use the lessons she had taught him to help others, but seeing him in action exceeded even her highest expectations. "Maria," James said, pausing to look at her, "do you remember the day you found me on that street corner?" Maria nodded. "Of course I do. How could I forget? That day changed both our lives, didn't it?" James smiled softly. "Yes, it did. And ever since, I've carried a promise in my heart. A promise to repay you in a way that truly honors everything you did for me." Maria's eyes widened slightly, unsure what he meant. "James, you don't need to repay me. You're living a good life. That is enough for me." James shook his head. "I know, but I want to do more. I want you to feel the same hope, security, and joy you gave me. You deserve to experience the happiness you've given to me and so many others." Over the next few days, James guided Maria to a modest but beautifully renovated house on the outskirts of the city. Maria's eyes filled with tears as she took in the sight. She had never imagined anything like this, never dreamed that her simple acts of kindness could lead to such a moment. The house had been prepared carefully, reflecting both practicality and warmth. It was a place where Maria could live comfortably, a sanctuary she could call her own. "This is for you, Maria," James said, his voice full of emotion. "I've been planning this for years. It's not just a house, it's a way to show you how much your kindness meant to me. You saved my life when I had nothing, and now I want to give you security, comfort, and peace in your life. You've earned it more than anyone I know." Maria's hands trembled, and she felt tears streaming down her face. She could not find the words to express her gratitude, her shock, or her overwhelming emotions. For years, she had never expected repayment, never sought recognition. Yet here it was, tangible and real, offered with love and humility. James took her hands in his and smiled gently. "Maria, you've shown me that one person's courage and compassion can change the world. You've inspired me to be better, to help others, and to live with integrity. I wanted you to see the impact you've had not just on me, but on the lives you've touched indirectly through me and the work I do." Maria shook her head, unable to speak at first. She looked at him, seeing the young boy she had saved now standing before her as a man of purpose, confidence, and love. "James, I don't know what to say. You've already given me so much just by being the person you've become. I never imagined this. I never imagined you would repay me in such a way." James smiled softly. "You don't need to say anything. Just know that I will always honor what you did for me. You made a difference in my life, and I want you to feel that difference in yours. You gave me hope when I had none. I want to give hope back to you." As they walked through the house, Maria saw the thoughtful touches James had added, a cozy reading nook by the window, a small garden in the backyard, a kitchen stocked with supplies, and a comfortable living space designed for both practicality and warmth. Every corner reflected his care, thoughtfulness, and understanding of what would bring her peace. "I want this to be your sanctuary," James said. "A place where you can rest, enjoy life, and know that your efforts have created lasting change. You've given so much to others, and now it's time for you to receive." Maria felt a wave of gratitude and humility. She had never sought anything in return for her actions. Her joy had always come from helping others, from knowing she had made a difference. And yet, this moment was profoundly moving. James' gesture was not just about material comfort, it was about recognition, respect, and love. It was a celebration of the bond they shared, forged through courage, patience, and unwavering trust. In the following weeks, Maria settled into her new home. She tended to the garden, decorated the interiors with her favorite colors, and invited neighbors and friends to share in her joy. She felt a sense of security and peace that she had never known before. And through it all, James continued to be a presence in her life, not as a child needing guidance, but as a friend, mentor, and companion who deeply valued her. One evening, as they sat on the porch watching the sunset, Maria reflected on the journey that had brought them here. She thought James had developed a particular interest in helping others. His experiences as a child had left a mark on him, and he wanted to make a difference for children who, like him, had been neglected or hurt. He started volunteering at a local community center, mentoring young kids, assisting them with homework, and listening to their stories. Maria was proud but not surprised. She had always known that the compassion he had learned would guide him to help others. One afternoon, as James walked home from the community center, he reflected on his journey. He remembered the fear, the nights spent crying alone, and the small moments when hope seemed impossible. And then he remembered Maria, her patience, her warm smile, the sandwiches she brought, the long talks about dreams and feelings. She had been his lifeline, the one person who believed in him when no one else did. As he opened the door to Maria's apartment that evening, he felt a surge of gratitude. "Maria," he said, smiling, "I can't thank you enough for everything you did for me. I wouldn't be here without you." Maria smiled back, brushing her hair behind her ear. James, you did all the hard work yourself. I only helped guide you. I'm proud of who you've become. James shook his head, his expression serious. No, Maria. You gave me the chance to become this person. You saved me. And I've always wanted a way to show you how much that means. Maria's eyes softened. She had never expected anything in return. James, your happiness, your safety, that's enough. That's all I could ever want. But James had made a quiet promise to himself. He wanted to repay her, not because she demanded it, but because he genuinely wanted to honor the life-changing impact she had on him. He had spent years thinking about how to do it, how to express the gratitude and respect he felt in a way that truly mattered. Meanwhile, Maria's life continued quietly. She kept working at the grocery store, volunteering occasionally at the community center, and living simply. Her acts of kindness were not limited to James. She helped neighbors in need, offered guidance to children in her neighborhood, and quietly supported those who struggled. Yet, deep down, she never imagined that one day, the boy she saved would return to change her life as well. James finished high school with honors and went on to attend college. He studied social work, driven by his desire to protect children and help families in difficult situations. Every step he took reminded him of Maria and the foundation she had provided. He often wrote her letters, sharing his achievements, expressing his gratitude, and recounting moments when he used the lessons she had taught him to help someone else. Maria cherished these letters, tucking them away in a small box, a collection of memories and milestones that reflected the bond they shared. During his college years, James faced challenges of his own. There were moments of doubt, financial struggles, and the stress of rigorous coursework. But every time he felt overwhelmed, he remembered Maria's unwavering support. Her words echoed in his mind, "You are strong, James. You are brave. And you deserve happiness." These words were not just encouragement, they were a guide, a reminder that he could face any obstacle with patience, persistence, and integrity. One summer, James returned home to visit Maria. The neighborhood had changed little, yet he noticed small improvements, a new playground, painted houses, and a sense of community pride. He smiled, thinking about the children who now had opportunities he never had. But he also thought about Maria, who had quietly nurtured not just him, but the spirit of kindness in their community. He knocked on her door, carrying a small bag of groceries and a bouquet of flowers he had picked from a local market. Maria opened the door, surprised and delighted to see him. "James. What a nice surprise," she exclaimed, stepping aside to let him in. They spent the evening talking about life, dreams, and the future. James shared stories from college, the children he had helped at the community center, and the lessons he had learned. Maria listened, proud and attentive, occasionally offering advice or sharing her own experiences. It was a comfortable, warm conversation, the kind that only people with a deep bond could have. As the night grew darker, James took a deep breath. He looked at Maria, his eyes full of sincerity. "Maria, I need to tell you something important," he said. She tilted her head, curious. "I've always wanted to repay you for saving my life," James continued. "Not just to thank you, but to show you that your kindness has changed the world, not just mine, but the lives of others as well. I want you to know that everything I do with you in mind. You gave me a chance to be someone I never thought I could be, and I will never forget that." Maria felt a lump in her throat. She had never expected anything like this. "James," she said softly, "you don't owe me anything. You are proof that kindness matters. You are the reward." James shook his head. "No, Maria. You deserve more than that. I want to help you, to support you, and to honor the gift you gave me. I've thought about it for years, and I've been planning a way to do it properly." Maria's eyes welled up with tears. She had always known James was special, but seeing the man he had become, the confidence, compassion, and wisdom filled her with a pride that words could not capture. She reached out, touching his hand gently. "James, your heart is what matters. You have made your life meaningful. That is the greatest gift anyone could give me." But James smiled, shaking his head again. "I insist, Maria. You saved me when I had nothing, and now I want to give back, in any way I can. You showed me that one act of kindness can change a life. Now, let me show you that your actions have created ripples far beyond what you can see." Maria laughed softly, a mixture of joy and disbelief. "You always had a way with words, James. I never imagined you would one day stand here, speaking like this. I'm touched, truly." That night, they continued talking late into the evening, sharing stories, hopes, and dreams. Maria realized that the young boy she had once saved had grown into a man of integrity, purpose, and love. And James realized that the woman who had once been his guiding light would always be a central figure in his life. Unbeknownst to Maria, James had quietly organized a plan to honor her years of selfless kindness. He had been saving and preparing, ensuring that when the time came, he could repay her in a way that truly reflected the depth of his gratitude. He didn't expect anything from her, and he didn't need recognition, but he wanted her to feel the same warmth and security she had given him. As the months passed, Maria noticed subtle changes in James. He became more confident, more thoughtful, and more determined to make a positive impact on the lives of others. And while she was proud of him, she also began to feel a sense of anticipation, though she didn't know why. There was a quiet energy in their interactions, a promise of something meaningful yet to come. Maria had always believed that kindness matters. She had seen it change a child's life, and she had experienced the quiet satisfaction of knowing she had made a difference. But even she could not have predicted that the boy she had saved would one day come knocking on her door, not just to thank her, but to repay the life-changing gift she had given him. And so, life continued, weaving the threads of past kindness, present growth, and future possibilities into a story that was still unfolding. Maria and James shared a bond that could not be broken, a connection forged through love, trust, and the unwavering belief that one person's courage could change another's world. Maria stayed in close contact with the social workers assigned to James' case. She visited him regularly at the foster home, bringing small gifts, books, art supplies, and sometimes homemade cookies. At first, James was hesitant. He had learned not to trust adults, not to expect care or attention without strings attached. But Maria never pressured him. She simply showed up, day after day, offering her presence and patience. Slowly, the walls he had built around himself began to crack. One afternoon, Maria brought a picture book to James. He took it reluctantly, flipping through the pages with little enthusiasm. Maria sat beside him, not speaking at first, just letting him explore the book. Then she began reading aloud, giving life to the characters and making silly voices for each one. James couldn't help but smile. For the first time in years, he laughed freely, without fear. Maria felt her heart swell. Moments like this reminded her why she had taken the risk to help him. Over time, their bond grew stronger. Maria learned more about James' interests and talents. He loved drawing and had a vivid imagination, creating entire worlds on paper with pencils and crayons. Maria encouraged him to continue, buying him sketchbooks and colored pencils. She also introduced him to simple science experiments at home, which sparked his curiosity and gave him a sense of wonder. Maria believed that giving James opportunities to explore and learn would help him build confidence and a sense of control over his life, something he had never had before. Education became a central focus. Maria worked with the social workers to ensure James was enrolled in a school where he could thrive. At first, he struggled. Years of neglect had left gaps in his learning, and he felt anxious in a classroom full of children who seemed so confident and secure. Maria was patient, helping him with homework, explaining concepts in ways he could understand, and celebrating every small success. She reminded him that learning takes time and that it was okay to make mistakes. Slowly but surely, James began to catch up, and with each new accomplishment, his confidence grew. Maria also taught James important life skills. She showed him how to cook simple meals, how to keep his room organized, and how to express his feelings in healthy ways. They spent evenings talking about emotions, practicing ways to handle anger, sadness, and fear. Maria wanted him to know that feelings are normal, that it is okay to express them, and that he had a right to feel safe and loved. James began to open up about his past, sharing painful memories that he had carried alone for so long. Maria listened without judgment, holding space for his pain while helping him see that his past did not define his future. Despite the progress, challenges remained. James occasionally had nightmares about his old home, waking up crying in the middle of the night. There were days when he felt frustrated and angry, lashing out at small inconveniences. Maria never punished him harshly. Instead, she calmly helped him understand his emotions, teaching him coping strategies like deep breathing and expressing his feelings through drawing or writing. Her patience and consistency slowly helped him develop emotional resilience. Maria also understood the importance of community. She introduced James to supportive neighbors and local youth programs. He joined a small art club and a science group at school, where he could meet other children with similar interests. At first, he was shy and hesitant, but Maria encouraged him gently, reminding him that he had so much to offer. Over time, James began forming friendships, discovering that trust and connection with others were possible and safe. As months turned into years, James began to transform. He excelled in school, particularly in science and art. Teachers noticed his creativity and intelligence, often praising his work in front of the class. James' self-esteem grew, and he began to see himself as someone capable and worthy. Maria celebrated each milestone with quiet pride, always reminding him that he had earned these achievements through his hard work and determination. Maria's influence went beyond practical support. She became a constant source of love and encouragement, a model of compassion and strength. She taught James important life lessons without ever sounding like a teacher. Through her actions, he learned that helping others is a sign of strength, that courage means standing up for what is right, and that kindness can change lives. Maria never asked for recognition. Her reward was seeing James grow into a confident, kind, and resilient young person. There were moments when Maria doubted herself. She wondered if she was doing enough, if her efforts truly made a difference. But every time James smiled, every time he shared a new discovery or proudly showed her his artwork, she knew she had made the right choice. She reminded herself that healing is a journey, not a race, and that patience and consistency often matter more than grand gestures. One spring afternoon, James came home from school with a certificate for an art competition. He ran to Maria, beaming with excitement. "Look! I won," he shouted, holding up the paper. Maria's eyes filled with tears as she hugged him tightly. "I'm so proud of you, James. You worked hard for this, and you deserve it." James smiled, feeling a warmth in his chest he had never known before. "I couldn't have done it without you, Maria," he said softly. Maria shook her head, brushing away a tear. "No, James. You did this yourself. I only helped you see what you were already capable of." As James continued to grow, Maria began to see the fruits of her efforts in more subtle ways. He became more confident in expressing himself, standing up for what he believed in, and showing empathy toward others. He started mentoring younger children in his community, passing on the lessons he had learned from Maria. It was clear that the kindness Maria had shown him was now taking root in his character, growing stronger with each passing day. Though Maria had faced many challenges in helping James, she never regretted her decision. Every struggle, every sleepless night, every worry about his safety was worth it. She knew that saving James had not only changed his life but had also enriched hers. Their bond was a testament to the power of love, patience, and unwavering commitment. And even though the story of James' transformation was still unfolding, Maria had no idea that the kindness she had shown would one day return to her in a way she could never have imagined. A time would come when James, now a grown man, would seek her out, not just to thank her, but to repay the life-changing impact she had on him. But for now, Maria focused on the present, guiding James step by step, celebrating his victories, comforting him through setbacks, and ensuring that he had the tools he needed to face the world with courage and hope. Every day was a small victory, a building block in the foundation of a new life. And in those quiet moments, when James laughed freely, or showed her something he had created, Maria felt a sense of fulfillment that words could never fully capture. She had taken a risk by reaching out to a frightened child on the corner of a street one evening. She had chosen to intervene when others might have walked by. And in doing so, she had given James a chance at a future he never thought possible. Her courage, compassion, and determination were quietly changing the world one child at a time. The boy glanced at her, suspicion written all over his face. His lips trembled as he whispered, "Go away." Maria nodded slowly. "I can't leave you like this. You look cold and hungry. Can I bring you something to eat?" The boy hesitated, then shook his head. Maria understood, children who had been hurt often learned not to trust strangers. She didn't press him. Instead, she stood a little distance away and watched him, hoping to give him a sense of safety. For the next few days, Maria made it a point to pass by the corner at the same time each evening. She brought a small bag with sandwiches, fruit, and a bottle of water. She left it a short distance from the boy and quietly watched him from afar. At first, he didn't touch the food. But hunger is a powerful teacher, and soon enough, he began to eat. Maria never approached too quickly, she knew he needed to feel in control of the situation. Slowly, over days and then weeks, a bond began to form. The boy started to look forward to her visits. One evening, when Maria brought a sandwich, he whispered, "Thank you," barely audible but full of meaning. Maria smiled, her heart warming at the sound. "You're welcome," she replied softly. "What's your name?" The boy looked down at his hands, fidgeting with the torn sleeves of his shirt. "James," he finally muttered. "James," Maria repeated. "That's a strong name." "I'm Maria." James nodded but didn't say anything else. Maria understood, trust had to grow slowly. Over the next few weeks, she learned bits and pieces about James. He didn't have many friends and rarely went to school. His parents, as far as she could tell, were not kind. Sometimes she noticed bruises on his arms or scratches on his legs that were more than simple childhood accidents. It broke her heart, but she knew she had to act carefully. Maria began documenting what she observed. She took notes about the injuries she saw and the patterns of neglect. It wasn't easy, she had to be discreet. She didn't want to frighten James or alert anyone who might make his situation worse. But she also knew that ignoring it could cost him his safety and his future. One evening, as the sky turned dark and the street lights flickered on, James finally opened up. "I don't want to go home," he said quietly, his voice trembling. Maria felt a lump in her throat. "Can you tell me why?" she asked gently. My dad, James stopped, choking back tears. "He hits me. He yells all the time. I'm scared." Maria's heart sank. She had feared this, but hearing it confirmed was painful. She reached out, keeping her distance, and said, "James, it's not your fault. No one should hurt you. You don't have to be afraid anymore. I promise I will help you." James looked at her with wide, cautious eyes. You can help." "Yes," Maria said firmly. "I know people who can make sure you're safe." You deserve to feel safe and happy, James. From that night on, Maria began making plans. She contacted social services, sharing the information she had collected. She explained James' situation carefully, hoping the authorities would take swift action. Meanwhile, she continued her evening visits, bringing food and offering comfort. She spent hours just sitting nearby, talking to him about school, hobbies, and small joys, trying to fill the gap of care and warmth he had never known. James started to respond. He laughed quietly at Maria's jokes and even shared stories about his favorite books and cartoons. He began to trust her, allowing her to touch his shoulder gently, something he had avoided before. Maria knew that trust was fragile and precious, and she handled it with care. The weeks passed, and Maria's persistence paid off. Social services began visiting James' home, observing the neglect and abuse firsthand. It was not an easy process. James' parents were defensive, sometimes angry, sometimes intimidating. Maria worried about James' safety each time she left him, but she never let her fear prevent her from acting. She believed deeply that every child deserved a chance at life without fear. Finally, the day came when authorities decided that James could no longer remain in his home. Maria was there when he was taken to a safer environment, a place where he could be protected and nurtured. James clung to her hand, tears streaming down his face. "I'm scared," he whispered. Maria knelt beside him, holding his face gently. "I know, James. It's okay to be scared. But you are brave, and you are going to be safe now. I promise." As the social workers led him away, James looked back at Maria one last time, his eyes filled with a mixture of fear and hope. Maria waved softly, holding back tears. She knew this was just the beginning of a long journey for him, but she also knew he had a chance to heal and grow, something he had never had before. That night, Maria returned to her small apartment, exhausted but filled with a quiet satisfaction. She thought about James and the life she had glimpsed in him. She prayed for his safety and happiness, knowing that sometimes, even the smallest acts of courage could make a world of difference. She didn't do it for recognition or reward, she did it because it was right. Because sometimes, love and compassion were the most powerful forces in the world. And though she didn't know it yet, this was the first chapter in a story that would come full circle years later, in a way she could never have imagined.